We are. Okay, Juan, thank you for joining me, man. I know you're a busy guy. I know you got some crazy meetings and appointments and all that good stuff. So I appreciate you reaching out to me. And I guess there's some miscommunication. I thought 6 p.m. your time, and you thought my time.
Yeah, Dame Bramage. Oh, well.
So, Juan, man, I'm reading your book, and I got to tell you, I'm going to hold it up for everybody. This book, to me, has connected so many dots so far, and I'm only halfway through it. And from the banking cartels to the false flags, blood of Cain, City of London, where we're at today, have all roads basically lead to the Vatican in London, correct?
Well, there's several clubs here, so I can't really say it's just the Vatican or City of London. We have our own club here in DC that is into all of their occult imagery. There's actually a number of them, but they're so interconnected. But there is multiple parallel lanes here going on. It's Hydra, it's the octopus. There's one mind, and it's the mind of Satan himself through all these various incarnations. So, but yes, Vatican, City of London Bank, this Masonic monster here in DC. There's covens that a number of these people belong to. A number of them are wizards. They get a laugh out of being these wizardly people. So no, it's there's a lot of interconnected operations here. These royal bloodline families, etc.
Yeah, and I was in the beginning of your book. It talks about the Titanic. I would have never thought that was a false flag until you explained it in detail on how it went down and why it went down, and the opposition that was on the Titanic to oppose the centralized banking system. I couldn't believe it, but it makes complete sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, they have an attitude that they do things in the physical realm that have impacts in the spiritual realm and vice versa. It's all about spells and incantations, and it's really an occult or hidden series of practices. Occult means hidden, oftentimes hidden in plain sight. And so they do things that have some kind of reflected meaning back and forth, the spiritual, the physical. And that's this interaction, Satan, the demons, these spirits in the physical world. One of the examples is, oh, that's silly. They don't believe that. I can't see why you would think they believe that. Well, what do you think they were doing at the spirit cooking dinners?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. They believe they do certain things with physical, mass from the body that's got DNA in it, etc. And then they do certain imagery, writing on the wall, etc. And then it has an effect in the spiritual world using these physical elements to get, imagery that has a spiritual effect out into the world. That's the way they think.
And this all comes from the blood of Cain, correct? I mean, that's where it all stems from, their version of how it all went down in the Garden of Eden with Eve, Cain and Abel. So that's where it begins, correct? They feel like they have just as much a rightful throne to this planet as I guess the sons of Adam.
The whole point is, how did sin enter into the world? And for Christians, Jews, Muslims, all the major religions, it may be that while we understand the imperfection of man, there's some defining moment, and we go back to the garden, and from a Judeo-Christian standpoint, a Muslim standpoint, when sin began was because Eve somehow ate the apple, the forbidden fruit.
Right.
Well, the term that's used biblically is that Eve was beguiled by the serpent. Beguiled has sexual connotation and innuendo. Regardless of what you believe the Bible is saying and how it's written, or any of the other scriptures, to these clubs, various of them, they believe that Satan, Lucifer, the devil, Samael, this demon spirit, demon being, somehow convinced Eve that if she essentially had sex with him, that she would gain knowledge, that God was trying to keep her and Adam from knowing things, from being smart. And
So they look at our God, the God that we follow, as basically evil, as a that's how their outlook is of this, correct? I mean,
yes.
I mean, that's the way I guess I would have to see it, as from their point of view. They look at as our creator as the one that's holding secrets from us.
Mm-hmm. Well, they it's all about role reversals, the flip, their version of history, the truth, etc. And so, in this moment, up is down, right is left, good is evil, and vice versa. And so they're into this flip,
Right.
and the garden, from their viewpoint, is this moment when this hybridization of mankind, that which God had created with Adam and Eve, humans, when Satan, the devil, Lucifer, beguiled Eve, and she participated willingly in a sex act with the devil, this Rosemary's Baby moment. Then she was impregnated, and then in the same birth cycle, she turns and goes and teaches Adam the trick, and now she's pregnant by two different men in the same birth cycle, two different fathers, babies born as twins. And
that's Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel. And of course, in the New Testament, for example, in the Old Testament, there's examples where an enemy came in and sowed weeds in a farmer's field, and to damage the field, to destroy their crop. And so the landowner looks at it, and the employees all want to go out and pull up the weeds before they get a chance to grow. But the landowner says, no. If you do, you might pull up the good seed with it. No, let the weeds grow with the good seed. Let them grow up together. And at the harvest, we'll separate the good from the evil, and burn that which evil and destroy it, and harvest the good seed and move on. And of course, from that good seed, you're going to do additional plantings later and continue with other crops later. But they had to grow up together. Had God aborted Cain, then he might have damaged Abel in the meantime. One would say it'd be a way of saying it. And by the way, God.
Uh-oh. You hit the mute button, Juan. You all right?
There we go. Sorry. Did that bring it back? I apologize.
Yeah, you're back. You're back. Yeah. Okay. I noticed this happens a lot.
Oh my gosh. I have no idea how I did that, but I sure did it.
So you were saying, so Cain and Abel were born, and Cain is what the original sin was when he murdered Abel, right?
Yeah.
Or was the original sin is when Eve has sex with?
Cain was the result of that interaction between Eve and the devil, if you will.
Right.
And God cursed Satan, the devil, and made him to crawl on the earth.
But I'm going to imagine
a worm.
But let me ask you this. So like that's after he mated with Eve, but I'm sure wasn't Lucifer a very good-looking light being angel? So I'm sure when he seduced Eve, he was probably a very attractive person when he did that. I can't imagine her sleeping with a reptile. Does that make sense?
Well, it's said that the serpent, prior to this intercourse with Eve, was the most beautiful of all the creation. But he's also described as the green man. And so when you talk about the greening of the earth, even turning us to Soylent Green, etc. There's this theme over and over again because Satan hid amongst the leaves like a chameleon and blended in because he's the green man. And so all the way down through time, over and over, these bloodline families, they like to depict themselves and denote projects they're involved in with green and green man. And of course,
that's why the Green New Deal, the Green New Deal, the earth is very valuable to them. It's like a religion to them. That would make sense.
Keynesian economics, the canes of the earth, the kings, the canes of the earth. They like to hide in plain sight. They like you to not see them in a chameleon-like sense. They blend right in, and it's as soon as you say something or see it, Santa, Satan, these word games they do. Oh, well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Oh, that's crazy. ISIS, ISS space station. No.
Yeah.
That would, and by the way, ISIS, the space station. Okay. So what rockets are we now sending up to supply it? Because we've stopped our own government space program. It's a private space program. So by all sorts of free money, tax breaks, etc., Elon Musk is somehow making his billions, and his toy car company
are you
is
allowed
worth
to
more than
say,
Toyota.
Are you allowed to say what you think of Elon Musk on here, or nah?
Well, I mean, I personally, I don't have anything against him, but I'm just saying that the way that his company is run it's based on government grants and stuff like that. So I wonder how good a businessman you truly are, or how innovative you are when everything you do is based on, it's not an even playing field for everybody else. They would say, well, anybody else wants to come and do the project, do the same thing. But, let me just say this about the space program. So we shut down the shuttle program. We shut down everything. We're not getting anywhere with the citizen government run space programs. Oh, it's private industry. Okay. But all of these people that are put up there running it with their various programs, you got to wonder how they're being promoted behind the scenes. How come they're getting the contracts behind the scenes? There's a little mischief. That's the whole thing with all these government contracts, etc. But Musk with his rockets, what do they call them? The Dragon.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Dragon fleet rockets. Okay, so what do the Dragon rockets do? These reptile Dragon rockets do. They go up to ISIS. What's the story that this is all based on? ISIS was the mother of Set.
And she had sex with her own son,
Osiris, right? And so when Set, one twin, killed the other twin. Hello, this is again a reversal of the Abel and Cain story. It's the reversal in that in the Osiris Isis Set story. Set, the good brother, who is considered the good god, the very nice guy, kills his brother Osiris, who was considered the most evil of all the gods. And so it's a reversal of Cain and Abel. Here, the good brother kills the bad brother, and they chops him into 14 pieces, scatters the parts around the earth. This occurred on the 17th of the month. Well, Isis, she hears that Set has killed his brother, and so she races out across the earth, gathers the pieces. She can only find 13 of the 14 pieces. And so she then assembles all those pieces in one spot. The piece that's missing is his penis. So a fish is apparently eating the penis. Well, she's a god. She ran all over the earth and find all the pieces.
Terrible luck.
Can't find the fish and solve the penis. Okay, whatever. I mean, it's a horrible story. But so then she
and this is what these people believe. That this is what they believe. This is what they follow.
Yeah.
And so, and this also goes with the symbology of the obelisk, right? That's up at the Washington obelisk.
That's what the obelisk is. Yeah, the Washington Monument, and these other obelisks at other places,
what it represents.
The Vatican and other places. Yeah. So then there's other symbology here. Just like the green man. Well, okay, when she has sex with the disembodied corpse and this penis made out of a stone. Well, think about the imagery of what the stone represents. All of the silicon life form, the computers, are, it's sand, it's glass, it's melted sand that's made into machinery equipment, it's metals, etc. There is this imagery of that which is not been alive. It's stone.
AI, that would go with AI.
Right. And that has somehow merged with the physical, biological flesh of some sort. And then, but it's dead. The whole corpse is dead. The dildo is just a stone dildo. But somehow this God woman, the mother having sex with the child, somehow saves his life in the form of a son that he begets through his own mother. She has another child, and that's Horus. And
I mean,
Horus
this sounds just, I mean, this is just crazy. How can they base everything they do on this wacky shit?
Well, but again, you're dealing with,
it's
how
wacky.
do you explain evil? How do you explain evil? Evil, by its very definition, is insanity. It's madness. And so you're trying to come up with a way to explain madness and make it logical. So it's just not possible. The very nature of evil is insanity. It's illogic. And so beyond a certain point, you can't explain it. You can understand how they think, but you can't make sense of it completely.
Right. Well, let me ask you this one. How the hell did we get to the point where we have let them, and I'm going to say let them because good guys stood back and did nothing, let these people infiltrate every aspect of our lives? Now they own the media, the government, I mean, the food, the pharmaceutical company, they're everywhere. They're in everything.
Well, it's because
how did we let it get there?
People don't want to. I had this conversation last night with someone, great person, good influencer. But in the course of the conversation, they're trying to understand all of this without a God component, without a divine component. We battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers of darkness in high places. These people are, living via doctrines of demons. And so you're trying to make sense of it in, with a divinely created mind, with, some normalcy. But these aren't normal people. They're mad, literally in a clinical sense. They're insane.
Right. And reading your book, I'm going to show it right now. This book has been, to me, two most important books I've read. And I mean this one. And I'm not saying it because you're my friend or anything like that. Second to the Bible for me in explaining and connecting dots. And I mean that. This is, and I'm not pushing your book. If I didn't like your book, I'd be like, bro, No, this book is good. It's an amazing book. It's well written. This needs to be taught in schools. You connect the dots so incredibly. And I wrote a book too, and I'm impressed with how you're just a wealth of knowledge. So that's going to, people need to get this book. It's The Kid by the Side of the Road. Where can they get it, Juan?
Over at gumroad.com.
Gumroad, G-U-M?
G-U-M-R-O-A-D, gumroad.com. And then Kid by the Side of the Road. They have a lot of products over there. They're they clear the accounts for, the purchases and all that. The book's actually then sent from the printer out. We have some copies of this left. This is just about gone in this first printing. And there's a second edition that'll be coming out, but it'll actually be quite different in a lot of ways. Some of the photographs inside, the content as far as the writing will be the same. And I suspect, over time that we'll have a third or fourth or whatever edition over time. So this first one's about to go. I think the second one will be even cooler in some ways. So those that don't make it in time to get this edition, the second edition will be cool in its own unique way.
I'll tell you this, I'm having to read this. I have to go back and I can't just read through the pages. I have to go back and read the page twice because I cannot believe the information that's in this book. I have to go back and read each page twice. And I don't ever do that with a book because there's just so much in it that I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm reading it and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. This makes sense. That connects to the dots to this. Now, taking us to today, I understand why everything has happened the way it does and how it's happening. The false flags are just off the charts. I understand it. I've always known there was a reason behind the chaos, order out of chaos, right?
Yeah, that's the way they think.
Right. And so my thing is this, on where we're at today, Juan, and I wanted to just touch up a little bit on this because I know the audience, believe me when I tell you, they're hanging on the edge of their seats asking me, when are you going to get this Juan SAVIN interview? When are you going to get it, man? You know, I'm getting like hate mail now because we missed it. So I'm gonna premiere this. So Juan, how are we looking right now with everything? Please just cut and dry. Just say it. Are we looking good or bad? I'm hearing 30% of the military is not on board. 70% is. Is there any truth to that? What's up?
Well, let's put it this way. There certainly is a great divide amongst our own military over how things are going. I had dinner or lunch yesterday with someone that flew in from out of the country. Between him and the partners, they're probably worth several tens of billions of dollars. And they were absolutely trying to figure out, what's going on. They asked me, a couple of questions just because where they were actually at a place that had such extreme drama locally that they literally barely got out of the country with their life just the first part of this week. Wow. It was like Cuba with, at the fall of Cuba to Castro, and like a scene from the Godfather movie with people beating on the cab as they were leaving and the aircraft being held at the airport so that they could get out on this aircraft before things completely fell. And it was quite dramatic. And so, he gets in here, he knew I was here, so he decided to flow over and have a talk with me. And he says, first words out of his mouth, this is, you got the picture. I mean, this is one of the wealthiest people, this team on planet Earth. And first thing, what in the world is going on? Do you know what's going on?
I mean, yeah, I would imagine only maybe 5 to 10 people do, right? Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. What's going to happen next is not being telegraphed, but I can tell you, it's just like, I was mentioning on a couple other shows yesterday and today. I did one with Flyover Patriots today and one with Jen and Prim yesterday. And he calls himself Prime, but I had to explain to him he's a victim of a public school.
I like Prime. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a victim of a public school education. He didn't understand how to pronounce his name, and so I had to correct him. But, so he's owned it now. He understands it, and he's a good sport.
Oh man, I had an interview with Jen. I think just 2 days ago. She's such a sweetheart. Well, I want to read you something real quick, Juan.
All right.
General McInerney. Major disagreements to come within the military leadership. Stay tuned. Joe Biden is not president.
Well, praise the Lord for General McInerney, and he is a good guy. He not just a general, he's a 3-star general. He actually was a tremendous guy on the figures, the numbers inside the Air Force and tracking down some of the spending issues and like that. He did become an approved media spokesman for the military. And he's done that role for quite a few years. It does limit what he can say and how he can say it. Not an easy job. You make one mistake and all of a sudden you're getting barked at from both sides. So I have a lot of respect for somebody that has to do that and chooses to. And he's working within certain parameters to give America the information that they need and a perspective. You got to have a lot of respect for somebody that is swimming upstream in every quarter, amongst friends in the military, other generals, and in the media who want him to say more than he's allowed to say, or say things that, his direct knowledge is within certain parameters, how things work, etc. So I have tremendous respect for General McInerney and the role he's playing in this situation. We should all, tip the hat to him.
I try to tell people, like, hey, we are in uncharted waters. This has never been seen before, done before. I believe in, I've said this to my audience, that there's two operations going on right now. We basically have two presidents. Am I correct in saying that?
I think that's becoming more and more obvious. I started to say something earlier today in one of the interviews that I have a bet with a Wall Street guy, pretty good guy, and what he said yesterday when he called me was, okay. I know nobody's officially said Trump's won, but are you thinking that I've lost already? Because I actually, even though our bet is that by October 1st, Trump would be president.
Wait, I thought it was April 1st.
I mean, April 1st. I'm sorry.
Shit. Like, come on, why do you keep moving the goalpost on me, man?
No, I'm sorry. By April 1st, Trump would be president. Everybody would see it. And that anybody that voted for Biden or whoever the Democrat was, because I made some of these bets before Biden was the nominee, would be the fool. Well, the reality is that I think it's becoming more and more obvious by the way things are going that Congress may have recognized Biden as the winner. The courts, the judiciary, the Supreme Court may have recognized Biden as the winner, but the military, for all that things are going a certain way and, at the highest levels, they're not recognizing Biden presidency, and they're not turning over the keys.
Are we going to start seeing the tide turn to where it's obvious and the power gets taken back by Trump completely? Or, I mean, how is this going to play out? I mean, this is so confusing to me. I mean, is he going to absorb from the Republic? Is like the way I see it is Trump being president of the Republic and he absorbs the rest of the dead corporation. I mean, how is this this is so confusing. How is this going to play out? How is this expected to play out? And I know without saying too much, what you can say, what you can't say. Give us a little something.
Well, let's put it this way. The keys that Biden's gotten so far, you ever seen those plastic keys that they give the kids when they're 1 or 2 years old? They can chomp on with their mouth and gut away at, while they're chewing, getting their teeth.
Yeah.
Okay. The plastic color-coded keys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the blue key, that one opens the edge of the crib, excuse me. They have not given them the nuclear code keys, to the extent that.
And he's not at the White House.
Right, at the extent that the briefcase is anywhere near him, he can push the buttons. It doesn't mean anything's happening at the other end, okay? Anything to entertain him. In the meantime, the military has done an internal assessment as they had to, but the requirements for the military to act did not come into play until Biden was sworn, and the civilian authorities did not protect the American people against a digital Pearl Harbor. Up until the moment that Biden was sworn, the option existed for the Congress or for the courts up into the Supreme Court to take action to protect the Constitution and the Republic. And they failed to act timely and have continued to fail to act. The military then began, not before, then began an internal assessment of the data to that point in time. And it would be my contention, has concluded that this was a fraudulent vote foisted onto the American people by a complicit Congress, a bought and paid for judiciary, and that from a military perspective, with the information they have, they recognize that this was a digital Pearl Harbor, an attack by another means. So with that in mind, they have first secured the safety, the security of the nation, the people. But the next act isn't to start going and arresting people. It's first to restore lawful civilian authority to control as quickly as safely possible while protecting the country. We're not going to have a military junta. It's not going to be generals running America like some South American banana republic. They first restore lawful civilian authority, and then they looked to that lawful civilian authority for direction as to how to administer the country in this wartime crisis environment. And so when that happens, the president, based on the information from them, then directs them. Now, you could say, no, we got to have a revote. That in itself would be wrong. And the reason is because forensically, we have the data. We know how the vote was cooked, right down to each and every individual voting machine by individual serial number. We know how the vote was flipped and cooked and changed. Enough so, apologize there, enough so that we can tell that what in those 4 to 6 states, depending on how you want to view it, that flipped the whole national vote, we can tell that Trump clearly won, which would have changed the vote outcome. You can't have 4 or 6 corrupt, crooked states, Chicago and New York, gangland states politically, then take the whole country off course in some murderous direction. And if the courts and the Congress are bought and paid for, are compromised somehow, and then complicit in allowing this enslavement of America to foreign masters, because the people that did this, operating from foreign shores, foreign intelligence agencies, foreign operatives, business people, specifically the intelligence agencies, MI6, with personnel from CIA and FBI complicity and involvement, Italian intelligence, NATO people involved. That collusion amongst those various players conspired to flip the vote here in America and thereby put a leader in place over the American people and out into the world who suits their purposes, a person not voted for lawfully by the American people. The military is the last line of defense in restoring that lawful order. And so even throughout the book, what I talk about is throughout history, over and over, these same bloodline families working behind the scenes to control the affairs of men, to rule and reign by their bloodlines, by their hidden and secret alliances. Who controls the earth through the finances, through the royal bloodlines of kinship over the earth, through their religious operations to get leaders into these various church organizations who would be wolves in sheep's clothing, snakes hiding under the Vatican.
Well,
look at
I understand it 100%. I get it. But the thing is this, is that Biden's in there right now like a bull in a china shop, writing these EOs and dismantling our country. Are you telling me that when push comes to shove, all of these will be null and void?
Yeah.
These EOs that he's signing and all this crap that he's doing, it won't matter. I mean, what I'm saying is, how close of a near-death experience do we got to have, Juan?
Well, and I did say this was going to be a near-death experience. There's a silvery thread that you have that holds you to this world, and even when you go into this near-death experience, end of the world experience, end of your world, your life experience, if that's severed, there's no going back. There's a prayer, there's a faith, there's something from God himself to save us, to call us back from that death experience, to make it a near death, not a death experience. If that silvery thread is broken, if it's gone, then you're in hell forever.
Right.
And the only thing, people that have had a near-death experience, there's a common theme where they cried out to God in the midst of the near-death experience at the last possible moment. Jesus, save me. God, don't let this be. Please, save me. And before it's too late, these people somehow are brought back to life, brought back into their bodies and recount the experience. But there's this common theme amongst many of them where there was some kind of a divine intervention, and that silvery cord, that thread, that faith thread to God himself was somehow
Well,
not
I'll tell you
severed.
what, I think a lot of Americans are feeling that right now. And I know the people watching right now are like, how much more of this shit can we take? And you're telling me that you feel good. Because I talked to you earlier, you said, I feel good.
Oh, I do.
I'm not, you said you're not nervous.
No, and I'll tell you why, because I go back to this moment on January 6th when the American people showed up. I was here. I saw the crowds on the 5th and the 6th. The people that came here came in prayer. They were praying to God in heaven for divine intervention, divine assistance, divine protection for the American people against what they saw as some diversion to some evil, some stolen diversion of our country to do really the work of Satan. You look at the Democratic platform, this anti-God platform. It's not even neutral. It's an anti-God platform, and
And all the
that
celebrities
cannot
involved,
stand.
all the
Yes.
celebrities, they're the tools.
Well,
I
let me
can't.
give me a second. Let me just develop this for half a second. Let me just paint the picture for your listeners. And I've talked about this over the last couple of days, a couple of shows, but let me just paint it again. A picture this: Babylon the Great, the last king of Babylon. His name was Belshazzar, and so he decides that he's going to throw a party, and he wants all of his officials, all of the really important people to come show up, and all the celebrities. So he has like 1,000 people show up plus their guests. Okay, I mean all the politicians and all of the big donors to their campaigns and everything else. He has all the Hollywood people, all the Playboy. Hugh Hefner shows up, and a bunch of the Playgirls in the limo. He's got Maria Abramovich and all the spirit cooking people, and they're doing their spirit cooking dinner right there in the middle of this huge party. They've got the Sanctum players who are doing their sex acts and pornography to entertain everybody because they don't have TV in those days. So this is a 3-ring circus of this satanic pornographic whatever. They're in Babylon. This insanity, this madness. It's a drunken rave. And during the course of this drunken rave, all the various officials are present, including, by the way, not only the Israelites that were essentially just administrators and had been brought in as slaves into Babylon, and their children, their half-breed children, the girls having been made concubines of the Babylonians when they were taken into slavery, and the boys castrated and then made to be administrators. All of these people are there at this huge party. All the big money people, they show up in their Lamborghinis and their Bentleys and the flashy clothes and the music blaring in the background, and they walk the red carpet. And all the military people around Babylon. This city, Babylon, was a huge city. It's like 70 miles long. It's built along a riverbed and 15 miles wide. It's all got a huge a wall around it for protection from enemies. It's this unbelievable city, and everybody's there for the party. And all of the military officials are there with their ribbons and their gold embroidery and looking sharp and trim to host this huge party and protect all the officials there in this big meeting. People from all around the region show up because you got to be there or be square. And in the midst of all that, the Amalekite person, he's whispering in the ear of the king, "Hey, you gotta, show him who's really boss around here. When you conquered Israel and pillaged the temple of God. All this great art, this ornamentation, this utensils, the bowls, the cups, the saucers. It was all this, very valuable gold. Nebuchadnezzar had put it away safely, honoring that he did not want to upset the God of the Jews. He took the Jews into captivity because they were themselves had become evil. So this king gets convinced, no, go pull that stuff out. God can't do anything against you. Come on out, pull it out. We want to drink wine from the holy goblets. We want to piss in those jars and use it to spread the bodily juices for our spirit cooking art. And so you got Maria over there, and she's getting all ready to do her art, and she's painting on the walls, and she's doing all of her, sperm here and blood there, and slide everywhere else, and she's invoking these demonic spirits that are mirrored into these imprints in order to channel these demon gods into our world. And so what happens is this is going on, and all of this holy material from the temple of God is brought in, and they're mocking and laughing about God. God himself says, okay, you want to do art on the wall? You want to do graffiti on the wall? Watch this. And over the shoulder of the king, on the wall behind him, out of a great cloud, appears a disembodied hand, and suddenly starts writing from right to left on the wall, right into the stone, the finger of God. When the 10 Commandments were given to Moses on 2 tablets, it said that God himself wrote those 10 Commandments into the stone with his own finger for Moses. He wasn't sitting there chiseling it out. God himself wrote those 10 Commandments into stone. It's symbolic of a heart of stone for many people, that they're so hardened to God. He has to write with his own finger into their heart to put his commandments in place. But right there on the wall over the shoulder of the king, imagine this drunken rave, the laughing, the adrenochrome, madness that these people are in, the drug-induced madness, this whole 1,000+ throng. It's all the officials plus all their girlfriends and boyfriends and everything else that are brought in, 3 on each side as the penthouse girls show up and worse. And they're sitting there, laughing and mocking and making fun because they're the most powerful and nobody can do anything about it. And the military people are their servants just to wait on tables. And at that exact moment, God himself writes on the wall. The music stops, the laughter stops, the people are frozen. What in the world is this? Talk about spirit cooking. Even Maria Abramovich's knees are knocking at this point. And then they can't read what's there. They don't know what this language is. They can't understand it. And all the smart guys, all the people that have read all the books, all the advisors, they're paraded around, what does it say? What does it say? What does it say? Nobody has an answer. And finally, the queen speaks up and she says to the king, she says, Belshazzar, your father, Nebuchadnezzar, he had a guy who was able to, hear things from God, could see stuff. He was a great prophet. We don't keep him around here anymore because he says stuff we don't want to hear. So, he's like kept out in the back 40 somewhere, but he's around here somewhere. Maybe he can read this. So they send quickly for him right there in the middle of the night, in the middle of the party. And Daniel is brought. And Daniel gets to the party, and the king says, I'll give you power as the 3rd most powerful person in the kingdom if you just tell me what says on the wall up here. And David says, you can keep your power. I don't need it. He says, well, I'll give you, you can have all the girls, you can have the cars, you can have the house, everything. Just tell me what it says on the wall. David says, hey, I'm a eunuch. You castrated me when I got here. your people did. And of course, he was a young boy. When you castrate him, he talks very, very soft because he never matured. So he's got a falsetto voice. He talks like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, a little effeminate.
So, and so he's speaking to everybody in his soft Daniel voice. Everybody's straining to hear. You can hear a pin drop in this whole huge entourage of people through the whole building. And even though he's saying it in that falsetto voice, you can hear it in every corner because it's so quiet, dead silent at what's going on. And Daniel says, what it says, King, is your kingdom is now divided, half to the Medes and half to the Persians. And you, King, your grandfather, your father, Nebuchadnezzar, whichever it was, depending on which story you look at, he honored God in heaven because he knew that God ruled supreme over the affairs of men. But you've forgotten this. And so God's going to make a point, make an example of you because you don't honor him and you think you're more powerful than God and you laugh and mock God. God is not mocked. God will not be mocked. And you have mocked him with your spirit cooking, with all of your demonstrations, with your, pornographic sanctum and everything else, all the other sex clubs and all that. You're mocking God and you're using the state to do it, your deep state to do it and reign over the earth. Not going to continue. You've been weighed in the balances and found wanting. And therefore, your kingdom will be taken from you this night, and even your life is going to be taken from you. Now, the reason they couldn't read the language, even in Hebrew, is it didn't have any vowels in it. And the reason is because vowels turn words to verbs. They become action in many cases, in these specific words especially. And so, but there was no need for action at that moment in time. God made a statement. And that statement was, it's all done. It's over. From a God perspective, it was done. And even while everyone, all the military, all the police, all the servants, the whole city of Babylon from one end to other is in this stopped moment, shocked moment, because the words traveled extremely fast about this apparition, this hand, the handwriting on the wall that appeared out of nowhere and wrote. Everybody is fixated on this instant and the one prophet, Daniel, who's explaining what God's about to do and has done. At that exact instant, an enemy, the Medes and the Persians, had been preparing for a very long time. They'd gone to a choke point of the river that ran down the middle of the city. And while the walls were strong and high and well guarded, the river, because it flowed underneath the wall and there was no gap in it, this fast running river, there was no room to get through that area. What they did, some genius got a God insight. He's out there with his girlfriend on the hillside having a picnic, messing around a little bit. And he rolls over and he's kind of looking and he looks and he goes, oh, hey, wait a minute. You know what? Look at that choke point in the river and look at that big basin over there that doesn't have any water in it. What if we created a diversion pond over here and then we roll all these big rocks that have been here since some antediluvian time hanging on that hillside? What if we could push those rocks over and cap in that spot, this fast flowing area of the river, this choke point, and divert all that water out of the river into that area and make it a lake just for a few hours? If we could do that, this river dry up, and then what would happen? We could go right through that hole in the wall that doesn't exist in everybody's mind now, but would exist a moment later, and we can bring our armies into Babylon. We could conquer Babylon coming in that hole in the wall that would be created when we stop the river from flowing. And so some guy somewhere, sometime long before that day, knew how to do it. And then planning was done, preparation was done. And even then, they had to wait for exactly the right moment when all the officials are in the party. They're all drunk, all the big military people and the key best looking of all of the guards and police are all gathered at the party.
So
Everybody's
that's where we're at
distracted.
now.
Yes.
That's where we're at now.
Nino, let me ask you a question. When you were struggling with this alcohol problem, are there times when you really weren't, thinking clearly, you weren't aware of your surroundings, you weren't making sound decisions, days you didn't exactly remember fully? These people,
that was the point.
These people are drunk. They're drunk with power. Their leader is not aware of the world around him in the way that you would think has to be possible. They're all drunk with power. They're mad with power. And they think the party's going to go on forever. I'm telling you, as sure as God sits in his throne in heaven, this very second, he is not mocked. His people showed up here in DC. They marched the streets, put their foot down one on top of the other in prayer, and asked God to intervene, to save the nation for their families, for themselves, for their grandchildren, for children they've never met, never will meet in this world, but will be born to them through their DNA strands. And they asked God to intervene. God is not mocked. He heard those prayers. He will not let this stand. This evil will not stand. I guarantee it. Or God is not God in heaven because his people showed up. This will be flipped and reversed. The theme here is the Esther theme, the role reversal, the reversal of fate and fortune, the 17th book of the Bible, the book of Esther. This will not stand. What the timing is, we can look at the weather and guess. We can understand there's certain things. The event, this great big celebration, they're in Babylon. While everybody else thought it was over and done, and they've got the power to the point where they even bring in the utensils from the temple and have a rave and a party and a pornographic expose. The reality is that even at the moment they were having the party, the armies were on the march to take Babylon and divide it.
And that's where we're at right now.
It's happening. You may not see it, but I guarantee you, it's happening this very second. And the kingdom, these Democrats, their rule, their way of rule, their demonic ways will not stand. The American people will not let it stand. God himself will not let it stand. And by the way, the Medes and the Persians, for all their planning, for everything they did, getting ready, preparing for that instant, that night, that party night, with everything in place and in play, as much as they knew that they believed they were going to take Babylon, this monster, this Frankenstein monster that was controlling that whole region of the world, as much as they plotted and planned for that day for a victory, the Medes and the Persians, in their wildest dreams, could not have imagined that the distraction at the most critical moment of their attack would come from God's hand itself. If they wanted to dream up, well, we're going to do fireworks over here. We're going to have this distraction here. We're going to have dancing girls brought in from over there. We're going to have a spy right there in the midst. And he's going to do this and this and give us communication. There's going to be some blah, blah, blah. They could have tried everything in the world in their wildest dreams and imaginations, short of some divine spoken word to them. How could they, the very people who actually attacked and overthrew Babylon, how could they have anticipated that God would intervene with his own hand to provide the final distraction while the nation was collapsed from within and new power put into play? God's handwriting is about to show up on the wall. I don't know exactly what it will be, but I can tell you, as sure as we're sitting here, God is not going to be mocked, and he's not going to give the victory, the understanding of this moment. We don't hear much about what the Medes and Persians did, only that God showed up and wrote on the wall. Maria Abramovich, she does her thing. She's making her art. It's so beautiful. Okay. God says, I'll do that. I'll do one up on that. Okay.
No, that's
Come
and
on.
so I understand that that's where we're at right now. And as Tuesday follows Monday, that it's in the works now. We're not going to see, at least we're not going to see Biden finish his presidency at all.
Well, let me just add this: best laid plans of mice and men. There's 1,000 things that can go wrong.
Right.
If you know 25, you're a genius. Okay. If you're not praying, you don't understand how much is at stake and how the tiniest thing can go awry.
Right. There's a lot of moving parts to this.
A lot of moving parts.
But we're sitting in a good position. That's what I want to just calm my audience and let them know we are in control. Can I say that?
God decides in the affairs of men. Okay. You better pray. If you're afraid, then you better pray harder.
One more thing, Juan, before I let you go, and it's the Biden speech. Are you watching it today? And I know it's on 3/11/21, and I know they're really big on dates. And here we are, 3 March the 11th. Any significance with that, right? There's a lot of significance.
33.
With that, right?
That's one of their magic numbers that they reign and control with, and want to. 11 is the number of war. It's the number of discord. That's why World War I began and ended with an 11-11-11. The license plate in the car that Prince Ferdinand was killed in, and then the ending moment of the war, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, 11-11-11. It's a timing marker, like a timing in a car engine. And so they use these timing markers for the next event and the next event. That's why we don't even see it.
We have neutralized a lot of threats, correct?
Yeah, but again, at the end of the day, man makes his plans, but God, he's the final arbiter. Turn your plans over to God, trust in God. We battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers of darkness in high places.
Juan, so let me tell you, man, I love your book. It's amazing. I'm not going to keep you much longer. You've been an amazing guest. You always are. I would love to do Vegas with you again sometime. Oh, man. Here's the book.
Well, I am going to go do some fun stuff, over at my platform as we get it fully functional. And we've had some fun. There's been some folks out there really trying to attack us hard.
Are you in DC right now?
I'm in DC now. Yeah.
And you can state that Biden's not there, right? He's not at the White House.
I don't know where Biden's at right this second, but I can tell you that the security perimeter is still around the White House. And I wasn't out there, but somebody's out there the other night and told me, yep, lights are still going out like they're on a timer at 11 o'clock.
So we've never been in a situation like this. It's odd. It's strange. People are like, what is going on? But like, I agree with you 100%. Pray to God and things will go right. And I believe from the people that I've talked to, and you as well, Juan, that we're going to win this. We're going to get this.
Yep. We got it. We're on it. We're going to take these people out.
And I know you can't say the things you want to say on this program, and people need to understand that. There's things that Juan cannot say. I mean, it's just, you can't telegraph the punch. I know that being a boxer.
Yep.
Juan, thank you very much. I love you, man. And let's keep in touch and see you at the finish line. Hey,
everybody, deep breaths. If you're afraid, if you're in fear, need to be in prayer. Our protection through this, our victory in this, ultimately for, all the king's armies and all the king's men couldn't put Biden back together again. They can do anything they want. They can say whatever. That egg is cracked. They're going to have to come up with another way to administer before it's all over. And I believe that the military has already made its decision, and now it's just a matter of time and timing.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Let them party on. Middle of the party, somewhere in here, it won't be you, it won't be me, it won't be men. God himself will intervene, because they have done things that are an affront to God himself. It will be God that answers him next, and that hand is about to appear out of the cloud. Take it to the bank.
Juan, can we end this with a prayer, please?
Sure.
Please say a small prayer, please.
Sure. Father God in heaven, we look to you for your guidance, for your protection in this moment of turmoil. I pray for each person out there who may be in fear, who doesn't understand the workings going on here in this clockwork, doesn't see your hand, your protective hand in the events here in this world. Pray that you would reveal yourself acting strong in the affairs of men as the arbiter, the decider of who reigns, who has power in the earth, and that you would protect your people, those that showed up directly and by proxy here in Washington, D.C., to be counted, to set the sole of their foot on the ground, to claim this land back for your people. We know that you're present. You hear our prayers. Prayers change things. Big doors turn on tiny hinges. We look to you in this hinge moment for your action, your decisive action to save America from the monsters that would drive us into hell and put us back on the right course, restore people to some sense of normalcy, some reality of normalcy, and help us to mend our nation, and then to go out into the world, not to be our brother's keeper, but to be our brother's brother throughout the world, to be your representatives into the world. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Love you, Juan. Thank you very much. And this will be up on, I'm going to premiere this on YouTube, and I'm going to leave it up for a while, and it's going to be on ninoscorner.tv.